Welcome back to Globetrotting. With over 70% of viewers unsubscribed, be sure to hit that button as I push for 50,000. The impact of the A380 on the aviation industry varies considerably. No doubt one of the front runners that'll come to mind is that of Dubai-based airline Emirates. But nestled in there is actually a company that took the second most number of jets from this aircraft family, and that is Changi-based Singapore Airlines. Their role in the program was pretty essential. While decisions were made during the pandemic and even before that in removing some units, the aircraft can still be seen at ports globally with the SQ tail, and act as an optimal choice for this airline to deploy into locations that require a more immediate capacity boost. Look no further than a summer schedule or holiday period. But why the aircraft for Singapore Airlines, and has in 2024 its role still remained despite some major changes in our industry? Introduced in 2007, Singapore Airlines were actually the first airline to operate the world's largest passenger plane, entering service between Singapore and Sydney as the world's first A380 flight in 2007. This entry into service was paraded right around the world, and certainly within the company. It really signaled their intent with immediate effect to make this their flagship and see a fantastic impact on people's perceptions of it as a business. After more A380s entered the airline's network, they saw good results. Upon searching through their financial performances, I was able to get a gauge for executives highlighting the capacity capabilities as a really favoured feature, and the joy of that aircraft was further emphasised from a positive reception from its customers. That is something that still continues to this day as we approach the mid-2020s. It's a bit scary to say, the mid-2020s already. Things are moving way too quickly for my liking. But why the A380? Why not something more modern, but also maybe more modest? On September 29th, 2000, Singapore Airlines, through a press release with Airbus, announced their intent to order the 555-seater A3XX, which would later go on to be the A380. The agreement covered 10 firm orders and 15 options at this point, and that included freighter and passenger variants. Singapore Airlines believed this new state-of-the-art landmark plane would be instrumental in their ability to grow Singapore as a premium location for travellers, but also such a plane on this scale would align with their prospective growth ambitions. In turn, that really aligned with the growth they wanted to see in the country. When you also consider the geographical positioning of its home, Changi, well, the airline further saw potential in the hub-and-spoke model that would see non-stop connections to other major cities, all from this one location. The strategic forecasting involving this A380 was more than evident from the beginning, and its vision for the future saw this plane deployed towards locations such as New York, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Los Angeles, London, and Sydney. These were identified as optimal, especially when you consider at this time they were gearing up for their first real major US expansion. The A380 also offers the company great potential to serve customers with the latest cabin products and amenities. This is achieved through the sheer scale of this plane and the endless possibilities that you have without necessarily losing a bulk load of seats. Singapore Airlines wanted to take that next step in becoming even more of a global leader. They believed this aircraft would allow all of that to occur. Looking back at these comments and seeing the evolution of the aircraft in their fleet, it's probably safe to say that they've certainly achieved those ambitions. Look no further than that first-class product. Some argue it to be the perfect and world's best. And while I've never had and probably never will have the chance to experience it, a quick look at reviews or pictures really does showcase to me that it is its own type of studio apartment, if you will, rather than a seat on an airplane, and you'd probably easily forget that that's where you were. And while it comes at a cost, trust me, it is ultimately something that has elevated the premium experience aboard this aircraft. They have continuously looked to one-up other airlines in that region and even just globally with this offering. However, and a big however, the airline's relationship with the aircraft following these early days, which were surrounded with positive and ambitious targets, has undoubtedly had its ups and downs. Primarily led by decisions to retire multiple units markets and downsize its commitment when these planes were young. But remember, their executives also very much publicly voiced frustrations in the mid to late 2000s when the first units were delayed. Take a look at the very first delivered A380, 9V SKA. This was one of the many units that were axed by Singapore Airlines. And while the removal of aircraft focused on its oldest units, it's not like these were old on the grand scheme of things. We see 757s, 767s approaching 25 to 30 years, and other Airbus aircraft also getting on. And when you consider that these touched on A380 units were between 10 to 13 years of age and at times even younger, it really showcases just how out of favour this plane was. The shrinking of its commitment to the aircraft may have come as a shock in the mid-2010s, when it was one of the first to really announce its plans to downsize as leasing contracts ended, but during the pandemic, its removal of the plane was something very similar to what was happening at other airlines right around the world, responding to the need to become more efficient and obviously limit costs wherever possible. Now, the A380 still remains within the Singapore Airlines operation, but at a more modest total. It's less than what was meant to be, but at the very least, they still fly this aircraft. The removal of these Airbus A380s also comes as the airline attempted to be more nimble. This is how it described the situation. It wanted to operate with aircraft that would offer them greater flexibility. And you don't need to dig too deep into the Airbus A380 to probably know that it can't necessarily be achieved with this plane. While there are apparent downsides to operating the A380, it isn't all negative though. Singapore Airlines has emphasized that the purpose of the aircraft still shines through in their business, which is undoubtedly encouraging to hear, even if it is at a reduced rate, some 24 years on from their initial purchase. The positive impact of the A380 on the Singapore Airlines business really becomes evident in the ability of this plane to be readily deployed to markets that have high demand, whether it is year-round or seasonally. Furthermore, the aircraft becomes useful in airports that have fewer slots available, providing a way in a slot-restricted space to allow for maximum terms of capacity with limited resources. It also frees up other aircraft to be deployed to either existing or new markets. The retrofitting of these planes in recent times has signaled the intent that they will remain in the fleet at least throughout this decade. But the future of the A380 in that fleet into the 2030s is something that is more up for debate. The role of the A380 will certainly rest heavily on the upcoming future in terms of incoming aircraft, and if the airline is going to continue to face challenges and uncertainties with these, whether it is in the form of prospective delays, how markets are moving regarding growth, and whether such a high-capacity airliner is essential to retain into the next decade. The awareness of potential risks will really be crucial in their decision making for the future. But the A380 with Singapore Airlines, they were the first operator of this aircraft. They were also one of the first to look to axe it, and now they operate the aircraft at a reduced rate. But one thing that has shone through with the plane is that its purpose has remained, and its benefits can still be seen to this day within the company. That's going to conclude today's aviation video. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to Globetrotting. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you in a couple of days for your latest aviation analysis. And we'll